So welcome to the February meeting. As I just said, we because of the snowstorm, the work session was canceled. So this will be sort of a little bit work session and also a regularly scheduled meeting. Could I have a motion to call the meeting to order?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So first on the agenda is the extension request for Margaret H. Fowler, 550 and 560 Wickapog Road. Kathy, you've indicated that there has not been a previous request for extension on this,
Right.
and there's no reason, first request, so really no reason not to grant that extension. That being the case, could I have
What
a-
is the extension to, for what? It just says extension. Is there a letter?
There is a letter, and the letter is requesting a 6-month extension to
On
the
the-
regular meeting of August 2016.
Site preliminary or final?
Now, this was for a sketch plan, and the only reason for the delay is, as usual, the health department.
So this is extension of sketch plan.
Correct.
I'll move, we have to have a motion to move the extension to August.
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
So the to and including the public meeting in August.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's also a request for the extension for the application for tennis court of 8 Old Town Road.
So an adjournment. It's for an adjournment.
It's an adjournment, it's a new application, and additional information needs to be forthcoming. So again, could I have a motion to adjourn this to the February 1st meeting? February, excuse me, the March 1st, the March meeting.
Which is March 7th.
Is that March 7th? So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We have in public hearings this evening, the application of Job's Realty, 62 Job's Lane. This is for a modification of the property to put a retail use in it. Mr. Leonard,
I'm here representing Sean's office.
would you like to make your presentation? Or speak about summarize your application?
Sure. Rich Mado, representing Sean Leonard Architect's Office, proposing to divide the building for the front half to be retail and the back half to remain driver's seat restaurant. We meet the area for the retail, and we're proposing to meet handicap by installing a ramp on the west side of the property. And I believe that's all I think that's all that's required so far.
Oh, ramp, I'm sorry, yeah.
I think in the preliminary, in the previous meetings, we've gone through all the other questions. The one, I can't recall, and forgive me if we've already asked this, but what was the resolution for the restroom facilities? Were they going to be, were the current facilities going with the subdivided property, or how's that
Currently, there's
working?
2 bathrooms in the restaurant. One will be they're divided up. One will be for the retail. One will be for the restaurant.
Okay, so the ones that you go down the stairs to?
That would be for the retail space.
For the retail space?
Correct.
And the ramp is for the restaurant.
Correct. No. The ramp will be for the retail front space.
Right, so the restaurant will be rear entrance.
Correct, and that's right now. That's you walk right in.
Yep.
A ramp wouldn't be required.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few planning board issues with
Right.
this application, so the one other thing is that this is a type 2 action under seeker, so no further review is required under seeker. And Mike Russo from our office he's our architectural consultant, looked at this and said that the way that it is presented can conform to ADA requirements under the New York State Building Code. There may be some tweaks that need to be done before you get to the building phase. But from a planning board's perspective, we can move ahead with a decision. And so I'd recommend that first we should probably hear from the rest of from the public.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Does anyone here wish to comment on this application from the public? Seeing that there are no additional comments, I would like a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So thank you, sir. The next step will be, you don't need to do those tweaks now, do you, Kathy? We would move to the decision phase.
Mike Russo was going to look at it in a little bit more detail, so, but I think we go forward with a decision. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. The next item on the agenda for the public hearing is the Southampton Hospital Association, 740 County Road 39.
It's not 60, this is 62.
Good evening, board members. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin for the Southampton Hospital. We submitted an affidavit posting and mailing for the record. This matter has been on your calendar a couple times. In fact, at your January meeting, you adopted a negative declaration under seeker. We're here for the formal public hearing. The property's located on the southerly side of County Road 39, just west of the intersection of County Road 39 and Hampton Road and Montauk Highway. It's a 2.2 acre parcel, 95,962 square feet, located in the highway business zone. There are 3 existing barns, former potato storage and processing. There's 2 one-story and 1 two-story. They're all in somewhat deteriorated condition. The proposed application is for a 2-story medical arts building to be used by Southampton Hospital, to be known as the Phillips Family Cancer Center. This will be a state-of-the-art cancer center with basically a LINAC that's vault that's below grade into the rear of the building. Total gross floor area is about 14,965 square feet. With us tonight, we have our consultants. We also have Ken Wright from the hospital board. So we have the Rayner Group, we have Blaze McCoy, and LaGuardia Landscaping here to present any plans that the board necessarily might want to review. Otherwise, we're here to hear any questions from the public. But I will let Vinnie Gaudiello just briefly speak to the site plan and some of the issues that have been raised. We did submit, prior to your work session last week, some revised plans that addressed a number of the comments that you raised. But I'll let Vinnie just try to address some of the other things.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Vincent Gaudiello. I'm a principal with the Rayner Group, and we've been retained by Southampton Hospital in the capacity of the land surveyors and civil engineers for the project. As Mr. Bruden pointed out, this is a 2.2 acre piece of property. It is developed, or at least improved, with some dilapidated barns, 3 of them. Our proposal is to demolish those barns and construct a 14,965 square foot, 2-story or 2-leveled cancer facility. Access to the site is proposed from County Road 39 via a cross-access with our neighbor to the north. That access would be for 2-way traffic. We're also proposing an exit-only access onto County Road 39, a southbound exit lane. A third access we're proposing is a cross-connection with our neighbor to the west, Hampton Road Associates, and that would be a 2-way in and out of our property as well. We have made some preliminary discussions with our neighbors, and they are aware of our application and our proposal to make those connections. We are proposing construction and temporary construction easements over that portion of the site, as well as permanent access via those 2 roadways into our property. The parking layout proposes a total of 79 spaces, of which 6 would be handicap accessible, and 1 loading space, which is required by code, which would be at the rear of the site. We are proposing trash enclosure area, as well as an assortment of utility extensions, public water, gas, electric. The building would be sprinklered. The site submission that was recently made a week ago was done in a manner that is intended to address the planning and engineering consultants' comments of, I think it was January 4th, 2016. We recently met with the fire marshal last Wednesday. He had issued some comments dated January 21st. We met with the fire marshal, discussed how the building would be sprinklered and his concerns with respect to fire apparatus and protection, and we have all intentions of addressing his comments. Beyond that, should the board have any questions of me, I'd be glad to answer them.
The only thing I noticed from the fire marshal was his concern that as the landscaping plan matured, there'd be some, you had the foresight to make sure that you're still going to be able to turn the trucks around. Was that before you had the chance to meet with him?
We saw that comment, and we have all intentions of addressing it. You know, one of the concerns here with Southampton Hospital is the maintenance of this facility. And so it's in their best interests, and it's to our benefit that, you know, we're not out there constantly pruning trees and making sure that we can get around there with respect to even thank God this winter really hasn't been so bad with the snow, but even from a snow maintenance standpoint, you know, making sure that there are areas to push the snow around and make sure the facility still functions and we have the parking that we need.
But unless there's any other particular questions, we have no further presentation, unless the board does want to see the landscape plan. Nothing's been
Kathy,
changed.
are these
with
latest
that yet.
January 29th comments, these are new?
Yes, did you receive this? Oh, okay. I've written on, is there an extra copy? There is some, Tom Dixon from our office had reviewed the revised site plan and had a few comments.
Okay.
So those are in there. And then I just gave you an update on the referrals. We heard back from the town of Southampton, as you, I think you saw that.
And the planning commission as well.
And the Suffolk County Planning Commission, and they said this was a matter for local determination. And lastly, actually, I met with Gary Gillespie today, and he is fine with the plan, so we're no longer waiting for a response from him. So, and then the other comment I had to do with the SWPPP. A stormwater pollution prevention plan is needed, and the question is whether, if you believe that this should be exempt, if it's not going to discharge to a surface water body, then there's kind of the burden of proof is on you to do that at this point. This is not something that has to be done as part of site plan, but...
We're going to prepare a plan.
Okay. So yes, I mean, this would be a condition of site plan approval. It's not necessarily done at site plan, but if you want to move forward with this quickly, which I think you do, you'd want to get going on that. That was the only thing else that I added.
Okay.
All right. And then the landscaping, we had made a couple suggestions that you use native vegetation just because of a maintenance issue, but that's a matter of preference, and we acknowledge that. And then our landscape ecologist had noticed that you might want to check the spacing on the steeplechase species, which I'm not sure I know what that is. But so, and so it was just so I guess the comments back from Dean McNamara on the landscaping can be addressed at the same time.
One of the things we tried to address originally, and you did receive the engineering responses first, and assuming everything was correct, we were going to then go to the other elements of the project as landscaping. We haven't revised the landscaping as of yet, so that we anticipate getting to you before your next work session. So hopefully you might be in a position at that time, if everything's addressed, that we might be able to take an action on the site plan.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Let me just get you a copy. I have an extra copy of this memo, so if you could
Thank you.
have that.
One, I'd like to ask any members of the public who would like to make a comment to step forward. No public comment, therefore I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. We will look forward to seeing some more information at the work session. subdivision review.
Yeah, that's for you.
Thank you.
Village of Southampton is requesting a lot line modification for their lot at 185 Windmill Lane. At the last session of this board, the public hearing was waived. A vote was held that allowing the public hearing to be waived. So at this point, we would move that to the decision phase for next meeting.
Right. So we could do a decision on the seeker, Environmental Quality Review Act for both the lot line modification and the site plan at the same time, because they are related actions, and then have a decision on the lot line modification.
So we would adjourn that.
And so, council, this is something we're supposed to do as opposed to approve what's being done there, right? Just the lot line is our business.
Both site plan and lot line,
Yeah.
Okay.
but
Even
they're
though it's-
coordinated.
All right, I still don't think it's our business, but you said it. We can comment, or we're supposed to,
Why wouldn't it be for business?
because the town trustees are doing it.
Well,
It's a municipal action on their part. I still have the same objection to our addressing it.
but they're asking for your input.
You bet, but that's not a formal proceeding. I got a lot of input and may disagree with them, but it's not my business. I haven't told them that. I think it's got pluses and minuses, and maybe some of the minuses are far more substantial, but it's not our business. It's a municipal action that they're taking on their own property, and I don't think it's our business under the law. But they wanted us to participate.
You don't want to participate?
I sure don't. I got a lot of people that don't want to participate. They asked the ARB to participate, and they refused.
Now, the ARB
Huh?
participated.
They did not, they said none of our business.
No, the village then said, we don't really
I got you.
need to listen to your decisions.
I got you. I'm same problem. That's all right. That the record is clear, that we gotta move the, I think we do have to deal with the changing of property lines. Okay, fine. Rest my case.
Well, at this point, we would then need to adjourn this application if I could have a motion to adjourn it.
Let's adjourn it. Yes, so
I'll
moved.
second.
I'll
All
second
in
it.
favor? Aye. OIA Associates, 212 Windmill Lane.
We'll have a decision for we on the next meeting.
So as we wait for the decision, may I have a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn OIA Associates?
Applicant says yes. Fine with me.
Seconded?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
550 and 554 Hill Street.
Evening. For the applicant, Gilbert G. Flanagan, 21 South Main Street, Southampton. This is an application, as you know, has been under review for some time, and I just really wanted tonight to bring you up to date as to where it is and what additional information we've submitted since the last time it came before you. A couple of weeks ago, we did submit a revised and amended, updated long environmental assessment form, Part 1, prepared by Dave Emelita, who's here tonight, to reflect the fact that the proposed subdivision is now a 3-lot division as opposed to a 4-lot division, and reflecting the necessary changes in that form which were required by virtue of that change. The second thing that we're working on is a response to a memo which I got at the end of last week from Nelson Pope and Voorhees, a few technical items that are required for the site plan. I think there were 5 of them, and in fact I can tell you that Dave Saskis's office has already made those changes. I don't have the formal prints to give to you today because I had nobody to pick them up in East Hampton, but we do have them, and I believe a copy was emailed to Kathy late this afternoon, so before the next work session you'll have those for review, and I believe from a technical standpoint the sketch plan should be capable of further review. That's really what I wanted to do this evening, is to put the thing back in front of you and to let you know what we've submitted. And if you have any particular questions of me or of Dave Emelita at this point, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
I think I have a question, because I don't think I've no knowledge of this. I arrived after all this has been going on for a year or two. But is there a general rule, we're sort of sitting as a quasi-zoning board as opposed to a planning board, I believe. I got a question, is when the zoning board is faced with a proposal by a property owner for a lot that covers two different zoning districts, and the way our law runs in general is the size of the lot governs another series of then subordinated conditions for shape and setback and everything else that the ZBA customly deals with. Is there an established procedure or a standard of any kind that they apply when they are dealing with properties that involve two zoning districts, like a 7.5 going into a 20 or whatever? Is there something they do where you solve for the lowest common denominator? Do they solve for an average? Is there some standard that our board has adopted over the last period?
I'm not aware of any, but what I will tell you is this application started at the Board of Zoning Appeals several years ago.
Oh, I understand all that.
So, and to answer your question about how the village deals with property divided by two districts, it's
Yep.
been my experience in the past that previous building inspectors have, if you have a single lot, generally allowed the lesser restrictive regulations to apply. But as you know, things have changed now because now that many of the dimensional regulations deal with the size of the individual lots.
Yep.
So that's what we'll be
Exactly.
facing. It's not so much
Exactly.
the district, but the size of the lot.
Yep.
So that will, I think that'll control a lot of what happens with these three lots if they're approved.
And
So
that,
that's- I don't know if that
since I
answers your
think
question.
we're being asked to make a judgment, that is what I'm trying to understand the possible ground rules for, because that's the way the law works.
Right.
So these lots are being, I think in this case, it's an odd one, the property, because it goes between 120,000 square foot zoning and 40,000 square foot zoning. So when you apply the things that go to the size of the lots, where then the other things apply to the lot, I'm wondering whether there's a precedent for dealing with what I call cross-border zoning questions that come in. I didn't know whether, if I called up Kevin Guidera and said, Kevin, what do you do when you got them going across a line? Is there a what he'll tell me. But I thought that we should ask counsel for the applicant if we should be aware of is there a system that's been applied in the past? I mean, just so
To
we
tell
know
you
what
the
it
truth,
is.
I'm not aware of one. In fact, this is the first time in nearly 40 years I think I've ever had occasion to handle one like this. And I
Okay.
suspect, I can't think offhand of any application in the village where there has been a subdivision which involved two different zoning districts. Not to say there isn't one, but I'm not aware of one.
Okay.
Certainly, and I've been at almost every planning board meeting for more than 30 years, and I can't, and most of the zoning board meetings, and I can't remember one of them.
And I haven't been in even a tiny fraction of those, but I'm having trouble with that issue. 'cause
But
I don't
it's a good
see
issue, but
what applies.
I think the reason that you're here, obviously, the Board of Zoning Appeals has to address the variance relief.
When it comes
But
back.
I think what you're being asked to do, mainly at the direction of the Board of Appeals, is from a planning standpoint, the layout, the
Planning,
access,
we're
the drainage.
We're planning the lots.
Right, and from a planning standpoint, let's say for the sake of argument that the lots were all within one district. You're looking at the layout of the
I
lots.
understand.
And the drainage and the parking and all of that sort of thing. So that really is, if you would, zoning blind from a planning standpoint.
I got it.
Okay, that's-
So I'm not sure the zoning will follow, which is why I gave the introduction.
Right.
So I understand, but we're creating lots. When we create the lots, this other stuff will follow, and I didn't know whether or not in all of your long career, Gil, where it's never happened before.
Never happened
If
to me.
there's something that, someone very smart will say, hey, guys, you took leave of your senses, you should understand what happens when it goes, and if there are anything that's going across the lines, that's fine, no problem.
I'm not aware of
Then
one.
zoning will do it, but
I don't know
otherwise-
if Brother Bennett is aware of one, but I don't think I've ever handled
I just,
one case where there was a division involving two different zoning
Well,
districts. I
in
can't
this-
think of one.
in this village, I'm surprised there's none, but I can't quarrel with your history. But that's what concerns me, because we're creating the ground rules that will then be applied by, somehow.
Say, but bear in mind, I think the concern may be the creation of the lots in terms of a zoning standpoint, where you're really looking at the planning aspects, as I say, the drainage, the access,
I understand
all
that.
of the things that you look at with any subdivision. And the Board of Appeals has to decide whether or not, under its standards, those particular lots are suitable. And what they want from you is two things. One, they want a secret determination, and two, they want to know from a planning standpoint, forgetting what zoning district it is. I think that's what they've asked you to do.
I'm looking for, my question goes to the ground rules, and I thank you for your
Okay.
historical response.
Mr. Flanagan, the original plans that we first saw for the four-lot subdivision were fairly detailed in terms of the layout of the houses and where the fronts were and where the backs were. The revised plan is basically just, here's a building envelope. There's not as much detail. Are you planning to provide that?
Yes, yes, we are. In fact, I think one of the maps we provided did show a possible house and possible other buildings and structures. So we've shown you that. That was a map that was done at the end of October, and that should be in your files. If
Well, it
isn't.
says possible, but it doesn't say this is the way it's going to be.
Right, and again, you wanted a typical lot layout. As you
Right.
know, we can't design the development of the lots until people buy them and want to build with them. You wanted to see what could happen.
But you kind of need to know where the front's going to be, where the back's going to be.
When-
Yeah, that
yeah.
we did. We showed building envelopes based on setbacks, and again, those setbacks will be established by the Board of Appeals, but we've done that. We've done that.
Yeah, because that part we have to deal with
You've got that.
driveways and access and how you come in.
Right.
You've got
If I have a
that.
perfect driveway to the cellar, I'm not
Is Mr.
necessarily going to do
Flanagan
the right
correct?
thing.
Kathy, do we have that specific
Yeah,
information?
it's not, it doesn't show up as being as detailed, but if you look at where the house has been situated on the lot, you can see where they've shown it as being the front yard, based on the size of the lot. And they actually do account for the right-of-way as well.
Because the right-of-ways,
Right, yeah.
So with the
We're charged
information you
with the
have,
right-of-ways.
you'll be able to provide a,
I think, why, is this what you're looking for?
Right, and
This is-
the
where's Hill
landscaping
Street?
plan,
There's
they
Hill Street.
actually have a
Here it
planting
is.
plan that
Yes.
goes
This
with
is
that.
it.
there's Hill Street. And this is the one that,
Hills- this is Hill
this is the one
Street.
that's undisclosed, this access.
Yeah.
I think, given this long multi-zone map, the access has always been an issue. It was when, so we have to deal with it. I was told there was considerable testimony on having a flag lot coming in on the south.
well, to me,
Okay.
this has now got to be the front, if this is the accessory structure, and this has got to be the back. So you've got a front
Yeah. So
against the back
will
here.
all three lots be serviced from Hill Street?
No, excuse me, the northerly two lots will be serviced from Hill Street. The southerly lot would be
The
serviced by.
southerly lot has a flag lot is proposed to come on the southern border, which is a planning issue for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a material grade issue, and there was testimony in the public record, I was told, this is all second or third level hearsay, in dealing with the development of this lot in front of it, that relates to whether or not there'd ever be a flag on the bottom. And Steve is not here. I've talked to Steve about it at length. Steve said, we've got to try to get the public record of what was said, because all the record in the building department for the lot to the west has disappeared, along with other lots, in the transfer of the building records a couple of times between different locations. Secondly, there are no minutes of some of the meetings of the body that heard it, which was the Architectural Review Board in 2005, for most of 2005, that held a long series of hearings and testimony from neighbors on the building of the lot, of the house to the west of this area, having to do with the location of the house, north or south. And there were representations made, I'm told, possibly of public, this is by people who used to be on the board, Architectural Review Board under Mr. Romanowski's period in the year 2005, as to representations made as to what would happen to the property with the location of the house. It may not be discovered, we may not have to do it, but it seems to me it is an issue, because the house to the west drops down to a dip on Captain's Neck Lane of approximately 6 or 7 feet. And there may need to be material construction to create a flag lot driveway on the south side, which is against a neighbor to the south who has registered from time to time through council some real issues over the whole development of this other area. And he's also made them verbally to some of us because of a difficulty he's having getting council to get involved in this matter. That's what I know on a reliable basis, sitting on this board, because it's come to, I haven't gone, so it's come to me. But I'm trying to get the visual record of those hearings, because it was a period when the nice lady taking the minutes retired. There was 4 or 5 weeks of no minutes even being taken of Architectural Review Board hearings, and the file disappeared. So there's an impediment. It was not a bad one, maybe innocuous, there'd be nothing that happened. But we've been told verbally by people there were matters discussed that would relate to the flag lot. Flagging of a lot. It may be flagged lots of different ways, but the flagging of a lot.
Just so
that's
you
what
know,
I
this is not a flagpole lot we're proposing to create. It's a right-of-way over the property that's located to the west.
That's what, well,
It's not a flagpole lot, which has all different kinds of implications from a zoning standpoint.
that access has nothing to do with our jurisdiction to create a flagpole?
It's not a flagpole. It's a right-of-way, and you, under your regulations, you can provide access to 3 lots or fewer by means of a right-of-way.
Okay.
So that is
then it's
part
a
of your,
right-of-way.
that's
Okay.
part of your, that is part of your
I
jurisdiction.
think that's part of what, I thought that was part of what we do. You know, I'm a rookie. That's part of the, I thought that access gill was part of what we're supposed to.
It is. I
lift our
just
leg
wanted to
over.
clarify the record that it's not a flagpole lot would
No,
mean
I'm
that that's,
sorry, I
that's
used
okay.
that, I misused the phrase. I withdraw flagpole. Go right away to the rear lot from Captain's Neck is just something that was a record before.
You may remember that previously there was talk of having access to 3 lots from Captain's Neck Lane.
Right.
We're now down to 1. Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody
Exactly.
recalls that. Okay.
Which is why getting this to remind us,
Right.
I understand that.
Okay.
Okay.
And by the way, when we did the updated long environmental assessment form, one of the sections in that talked about the changes in the access, and there was an analysis of the impact on the traffic, which Dave Emelita can address if you need him to. I would encourage you to read that report, because it's fairly thorough with an addendum to it.
What's this report?
Yeah, it was submitted in the middle of January, yes. Obviously, you have some more reviewing to do on this, but I would like to,
Thank you.
the main purpose is to put it before you again so that we can continue actively to discuss it, including at your next work session, where I'll have the additional information that Kathy requested in the form of, in the size that you have with that map that you have in front of you.
Yeah, this one had the shrunk version.
That's shrunk.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Right.
Well, we'll review this and we'll take this up at the work session.
Which is on
I think I have some additional information.
97th. No. Sadie Hawkins Day is Monday. Yeah, maybe it is.
I knew that
February
I knew that I would get a reaction from
My
Alan
goodness.
if I stood up and started
Nice to find
speaking.
you downtown.
Anthony Tohill. There is an answer to Alan's question. It's tied up in history. Everybody knows that zoning was invented in 1915, 100 years ago, by the American Planning Association. The first case reaching the United States Supreme Court challenging the whole concept of zoning took 11 years, 1926. It's the famous Euclid case, in which it's one of the few cases that was ever argued twice before the United States Supreme Court, meaning after the lawyers argued, left, they were invited to come back. Obviously, that meant that the court was having some trouble deciding the case. The end was that they found the notion of a concept of zoning constitutional in the Euclid case. 1 year later, it didn't work out the same way. Another case came along. It's called Nectow, Nectow, versus the city of Cambridge, and it involved a parcel of land in the city of Cambridge in Massachusetts where there was a split zone.
exactly what Alan was describing this evening. And the question is, what happens when that happens? And the answer in 1926 was the zoning was declared unconstitutional. You couldn't split the zone, but the reason for splitting the zone and having it declared unconstitutional was that it prevented any development of the parcel altogether. In this situation, any answer to Alan's question would be statewide and generic, and the answer is that as a result of the Nectel case, you cannot use the split zone to hurt the applicant, meaning you can't use it to diminish his property rights under the law of zoning. At the same time, since 1992, you would apply area variance standards 7-712B3 in the village law, which the zoning board is completely familiar with, and as a result, the envelope, the setbacks, the lot size, all of that would be determined by area variance applications made to the Zoning Board of Appeals, not to this board. So anyhow, it's tied up in a lot of history, but I knew that Alan would
I like that,
appreciate
but will those,
an explanation.
will those area variance applications then turn on our judgment as to the division of these?
Your judgment will
lots?
be will always have a condition that anything that you say is subject to the ZBA
I know that, yeah, that's
granting
right,
the
yeah,
variance
I know,
relief. But it's a
we have this,
completely different intellectual analysis,
Okay.
totally different. It's just completely outside what a planning board does, and
We
what the
understand.
ZBA does is outside what you do, but they better match up, or we run into a NECTAL problem from 1926, 27.
Well, this will
So
be-
it actually happened in history.
Well, thank you for the history. Since this will be a new one for Gil, I wanted to make sure that we had.
Not many people walk around with this minutia in their head, but unfortunately, that's the way I was built. So
Thank you.
it's my problem. Thank you all.
Thank
I
you.
remember Euclid. I remember that.
So I just want to add something, maybe to reiterate, is what Gil had said earlier, is that the lots, the setbacks and so forth are dictated by the lot size and
Yep.
not by the zoning. So in a way, the underlying zoning that's split doesn't affect the actual development anymore once the lots are created.
Who creates them?
So that's what we're looking
You
at now.
recreate the lots, as
Exactly,
I, or at least we
exactly.
participate in creating the lots.
Right.
Then
Exactly.
the size of the lots
Exactly.
dictates the standards that the zoning board applies. That's
That-
my simple-minded
That the
view.
building department applies
But-
unless they are asking
Yeah.
for additional relief, and in
Yeah.
which case it goes to the zoning board.
Then they go to the
Exactly.
zoning board to deal with the building department, yeah. But we have to take this odd
We're
thing.
saying, is this lot big enough, for instance?
Yeah.
We're providing input on that,
But
exactly.
if we approve these lots, they would need zoning relief. They don't need zoning.
They would need zoning relief under, it is based on the non-conforming nature of the property,
Yeah.
that now it's a non-conforming use, it will be another non-conforming entity. It's not a non-conforming use, but it would be non-conforming lot sizes. So,
That's
yeah.
Yeah. Like to-
So that's the zoning board's
No,
involvement at this point.
That I know.
and then-
It's an ancient non-conforming use we're getting rid of. It's going from storage to other, oh, it's fabulous. That part I know. Okay. Thank you for explaining our trigger, sir. I like that. I remember Euclid. I do remember Euclid. The other one I never heard of.
It's in the book. It's the next page.
All
Is
right.
that your book?
Not exactly. I'm still writing that.
Make a motion at the request of the applicant to adjourn
Adjourn till the, what is it, February the?
March 7th. Did we decide that was the day? No, to the
No,
work
it's
session.
March 7th is the public. The work session is
The 29th.
before, it's Sadie Hawkins Day, right?
It's the 29th.
Yeah, leap year.
Leap
Make a
year.
motion to adjourn at
Leap
the
day.
request of to the work session of February 29th.
Moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
Harkonnen and Atreides at 408 First Neck Lane.
Good evening, members of the board. John Bennett. Harkonnen and Treaty, I've been informed, just for general information, I didn't know, I guess these are characters or something to do with the Frank Herbert novel, Dune. Just nothing to do with the planning process, but I was wondering where those names came from, but that's,
Are not the guys' names?
no. Well, Brian Brilley, that's his name.
Oh, this underneath is the Briley's property.
Excuse me?
Okay, this is 408.
Yes, yeah, this is, well, it's First Neck.
No, I remember. Yeah. This was Dick Burge's property.
Yes, yes, it was. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I was trying to remember who we
Richard M.
brought it from.
Burge.
Nice, great guy, by the way.
Affirmative.
I was fortunate enough to meet him before we closed.
Known him for 30 years.
Sweetheart of a man, real gentleman.
So this, as I remember, this is a lot that goes all the way through.
Goes all the way through, as does the lot to the south, but that has a nice, sort of almost,
400 is a flagpole, and then there's a lot in front of it. I think it's been divided.
this lot, the lot, it's a eight plus or minus acre lot, and there's a 5 acre plus or minus lot and a 3 acre plus or minus lot. But the lot that I think you're speaking about, Alan, which is to the south, I believe is also a First Neck Lane to Agawam lot. And they're very similar. It's like an attempt to recreate a Normandy.
Oh, no,
house, yeah.
okay, I'm getting myself located in the real estate. Okay.
But yeah, I think both of these lots are Lake Agawam to First Neck Lane lots. Of course, the matter before you is a request to subdivide it. The board did grant sketch plan approval back in, hold on, I've got it somewhere. It's part of the application. They'll have back in September of 2014. And then it took us a long time to get to the health department process, because the health department, there is a house, a guest house, and a pool house. And the health department, before they'll further process the application for the health department subdivision approval, requires that all of the wastewater systems at the property be upgraded before they'll let you, in effect, calve off a lot. So one of the things that the health department has done from a point of view of upgrading septic, which is one of the things from a public health, safety, and welfare that you look at, that's all been taken care of already, because they won't let you process the application further without a full upgrade for the main house, the pool house, and the guest house. So that's why it's taken us a while to get back to you after the sketch plan approval. And then the board did, in March of 2014, issue a negative declaration. And what I'd respectfully ask you to do this evening is waive the public hearing, and I wouldn't ask you to do that without giving you some reasons why I think that would be a fair thing to do. There was a ZBA public hearing back in November of 2013, and that was to create this tennis court. And at the time, we asked the Zoning Board of Appeals to give us relief, front yard relief, for the tennis court in the location that it is now. It's 91.7 feet from the proposed front lot line. But we were very straightforward with the zoning board in saying, give us the relief for a front yard tennis court, which you need, even though we meet all the dimensional requirements. You can't have a tennis court in the front yard without a variance. But we'd like the relief not only for the lot as it exists now, but we showed the Zoning Board of Appeals the proposed lot line. So that was back in, and of course they granted the relief. But there was notice to all of the neighbors. There was actually no negative comment whatsoever from all of the neighbors. That was back in November of 2013. There was a ZBA public hearing. We wanted to expand the guest house. That was in April of 2014. And again, before that, the ZBA was the proposed, we showed them that the plan, and I think at that time we had probably filed the application to you folks, that the Zoning Board of Appeals was aware of that the subdivision was happening, but again, it was the Zoning Board of Appeals public hearing. The neighbors all got notice. There was no negative comment. There was a Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation hearing, again noticed because it's in the historic district, back in June of 2014. And again, while not for the subdivision per se, all of the neighbors were given notice, and there was no opposition. Again, the proposed lot was shown as part of the overall plan. And then back in March of 2014, there was a planning board public hearing on the sketch plan application, which you actually did approve. And all throughout that, there has been no negative comment. There's been really no comment at all. The health department has approved the plan, as I talked about before, and they approved back in, it was November of this year. That's how we are now before you for the final application. So my hope would be to sort of hopefully pick up some of the time we lost in working out all of this stuff. Nothing to do with this board in terms of this board has moved things very quickly right along, but and I thank you for that. But we lost a lot of time dealing with the wastewater upgrades on all of these structures. But the health department is satisfied, so not only did they give us approval to reconstruct the wastewater and current standards, but they also gave us approval from for the subdivision itself. There are no, from a point of view of Lake Agawam, this is just a subdivision, creation of a lot line that's over 750 feet from Lake Agawam, so any construction that will go on in the on lot number 1 will be well out of the jurisdiction of the zoning board.
My concern is that in many cases where people are objecting in the preliminary sketch plan, we always tell them, well, you'll have the opportunity to make your voice heard again at the final approval. And I just am loath to set a precedent where all of a sudden we just say, okay, no more chance to make an objection, even though I understand that nobody has raised a peep so far.
But that's why I understand why you do that, Roy, and I understand that often is, I've heard that, you say that many times, you're absolutely right. This is the sketch plan approval, but, you'll have another opportunity. But of the 4 public hearings we've had on this, no one has been in the room. I think there was some guild representing the party to the south, and all they wanted to do was make sure that there was no plan to change the access, which we couldn't anyway, because it's
South Road.
There's a shared driveway agreement that goes down there, which is, a filed document, so we couldn't change it anyway.
It's on the south edge, right?
So I don't think anyone would have ever been led astray by you telling people, which I agree, you always do. If you have an issue with this, we can always look at it in the, you're gonna get another bite of the apple. I don't think anyone was asking for
It's just a lot.
an initial bite of the apple.
John, have the improvements to the septic systems been made?
They're all done. We wouldn't have been able to make them. I'm sorry, we wouldn't have been able to receive subdivision approval from the Suffolk County Department of Health Services, Bureau of Wastewater Management, unless we had actually physically made them. And then they came down and inspected them. And then, once we got their sign-off, they then further processed the subdivision application, and it resulted in the approval. So, I understand, and, you don't want the public to ever be able to say that they were shortchanged of some opportunity.
I think it also protects the property owner.
Except that,
Nobody can say that there wasn't a final opportunity to be heard, and we don't know if any of the properties have changed title between now. It's been a substantial amount of time.
there was one change, there was, what was his name, his father might have had something to do with National Socialism. What's his name? He had a house down here. You know what I'm talking about?
Bernie Sanders?
National Socialism.
Well, attempted.
What was his name? And, there's been one change of ownership down here, and that was after. That change of ownership happened before. That happened about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. So all the notices went out to the new owners. But again, I'm like, whatever makes you guys feel.
Barring extreme hardship, I'd rather have the public hearing.
Is this something we could do?
We will do it, we'll schedule it for the,
For March.
March 6th.
Are they planning on submitting a map that says final subdivision map and that conforms with the requirements of? I have to look at it compared to the village code requirements for, but this is a sketch plan on it and
Yeah, it needs to say
obviously.
No, we'll
final
get that
then.
off there. This was,
Yeah.
we had this is
I
for the,
understand why
yeah.
We
we
vote
did this,
after
because
the
it's
public
important to
meeting
have
and-
this
Yeah.
property
Yeah,
subdivision.
that's-
I
so we
think
can do
that's
it
the
right
sort
then
of
that
thing
day.
that
So it doesn't
you,
matter whether.
this
So-
board clears up in their conditional approval.
Well, why go with the conditional approval? Just get it.
We'll just get an approval.
I think we're just
Final
gonna take
approval.
sketch plan off of it. I don't,
There's a couple of other items, I think.
what are they?
Well,
I'm
usually
not
you-
I
challenging
think there's a
anything.
certification issue and or a stamp on it.
Assuming no public comment, we're prepared to vote on at the conclusion of the public
Oh,
hearing.
well, that would be
We have
wonderful.
those
Can't complain about that, okay.
Could you have, is this where's the lead?
Yep.
Could you have them just go through the subdivision requirements and then just update this map? You know, so they're very set, you know, that you have to have the owner's name and address and applicant's name and address and that kind of thing.
It's all there. Owner developer Brian Briley Harkonnen, care of my firm.
Yeah,
The only
okay.
thing that this,
I don't have the code in front of me,
Yeah, no,
so
no,
I'm
I-
just saying that.
yeah, no, I could-
I will check it against it and I can give them a list if you want, which I will do, but.
I think the only thing that this is missing, and I've been doing this for a long time, is the only thing that this is missing is the fact that it says sketch plan, so we'll
Right.
take that off. It has the appropriate signature for the secretary, it has the approval from the Board of, Department of Health. If you want, for the final, and this is really a matter of preference, we can take the topo off. If anything, the preliminary or sketch maps seem to have more information on them. We can get rid of the topo. And the legends that are on the subdivision map are there pursuant to the understanding that those will stay there unless they're transferred out. But I'll have Bob look at it again. Nothing's jumping up and
Yeah, I mean,
and hitting me.
there's no proposed roads or anything here
Nope.
in this, yes.
Nope.
No, their house.
Yeah, it's road and drain, the sort of stuff that you wouldn't have drainage plans or anything like that. That's a good question, though. Do you want the topo on or off?
I would
It's
go
usually-
back to the
Leave it
code.
on.
Excuse me?
Leave it on.
Typically, final subdivision maps don't have topo
Yeah,
on them.
they're very simple.
Because from the county clerk, it's less
They're
messy.
filing them.
Yeah, when they're filing them, it's less messy, but
They're giving them
I'll,
a tax lot number, they like to keep things simple, so.
real simple.
Back to the code.
The code doesn't
What are
require
the
the
two- are
topo,
they
I'm
two-
saying if you want it, I can tell you that.
What is it, a 2-foot interval?
Yeah, it's a 2-foot interval. It just starts getting a little messy down there. When you go to file these things.
Actually, I have 1 foot interval, yeah.
Oh, there are one?
Yeah.
It's lake messy.
Is he doing better than asked for?
It's lake messy.
But as far as that, we'll just take sketch plan off of it, and we'll see you in March, and it'd be nice if you could,
So,
if there's no public negative comment, if you could vote for it in March, that'd be great.
motion to, have
Set a public hearing
public
for the
hearing.
March 6th, March 7th?
March 7th.
March 7th meeting, for all purposes.
Okay, perfect.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
What was it, March? 7.
7.
7.
Thanks, Bob.
All in favor, aye.
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 In site plan review, the Chabad, a decision is pending, Bo?
Yes, I was conferring with Kathy earlier, there were a couple of just procedural matters we've reviewed, and we shall have a decision for you at the work session.
Motion to adjourn this application at the request of the
So
applicant.
moved.
Second.
All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The Real Estate Organization Belgium, 477 First Neck Lane.
This,
the
the board was generally in favor of the application. They liked the idea. In fact, it was the proposal that made the most sense in the beginning. So I had the applicant's landscape architect actually add a little bit of clarification to the map that the existing privet hedge along the north boundary was to remain. That wasn't on the map. And then give us a little detail about what these little U-shaped things are over here at the driveway entrance, which is, it's a proposed hedge. to be added there, but I
It was
think,
supposed to be a non-straight road and
and
a
then they
double
are
width.
proposing the driveway to have a little bit of a curvature to it, so I think this is ready for decision also. So,
So adjourn this application pending decision.
So moved.
Thanks.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Did we couple 151 with 181, 185?
Yes, yeah. I mean, we are awaiting the updated site plan for that with additional detail, but we're gonna move ahead with the secret determination at the March meeting, and then we can move forward with review. But they can't do that application until they get the lot line modification. So they'll have to actually update the map to show the new lot line. So,
Adjourn this also,
that as well, yeah.
adjourn
I'll move that it
151.
be adjourned.
Adjourn 151 Windmill Lane at the request of the applicant.
I move that.
Second?
Aye.
Second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And last and definitely not least,
Patience.
AAMEE.
Yeah.
Bye, John.
Good night, John.
Bye.
Does anybody have this file?
I haven't.
You have it, okay. That's why I don't have it.
This is it, this is end of barber shop.
When I was here last time, you had some requests as a board in terms of relocating the parking and reconfiguring it, and a few other things. I did have plans drawn up that incorporated some of those, or all of those suggestions, which I gave ahead of time to Kathy Eisman at Nelson Poca Voorhees and also to the building inspector. The building inspector had some concerns about what I did for you. So he said he was meeting with you and Chick Voorhees this afternoon. So I haven't heard back what the comments are exactly. I probably need to speak with you
Yeah, I think it makes sense to just have a discussion.
before I go handing out plans that.
Right.
Okay. I have plans. I was going to hand them out, but I think it's smarter to get everybody lined up
Yes.
on the same team.
Well,
First.
we're not trying to make this hard for
Yeah.
you, and every time you do those plans, it's cost and delay and effort, and it's stupid to just keep doing them unless everybody's on the same page.
That's right. I agree with that. So, and I want to, I have to make sure the building inspector's happy, so.
Right.
Apparently, there's some trees that were in the place where you wanted to make the access road.
Well-
This is new, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Gary Gillespie
Yeah.
and John Foster and I met at the site today.
Right.
And
Met this afternoon,
there
yeah.
is a street tree and the utility pole pretty much in the location where the proposed access onto North Sea Road is. And the village trustees are not allowing trees to come down, the street trees to come down. So that's, Tom Dixon has said that, he'd be happy to work with your engineer to kind of work out a solution. That, there's some options, it's just there needs to be some flexibility in where the parking goes, and maybe we put a couple spaces to would that be the south of the building? And reconfigure, and then.
Some of this is news to me,
Right,
so.
exactly. So there's
Some of it.
I think
And-
that just is, we
Yeah.
need to try to figure out how to make it work. But I think the good news here is that John Foster said, that he will work with the applicant on the parking. He recognizes that this is a unique situation, and so whatever calculation makes sense for the usable space. And then when you go to the zoning board, John Foster is supporting that, so, the relief.
Okay.
So
So-
I think that's it. We should talk
That's what we'll
separately.
do.
Yeah.
That's what we'll do. I'll talk
So
to
if you
Kathy.
recall at the last meeting, there was some question you had, I think, 7 spaces, and there was a question if you did 7 spaces, whether they would all go in, and that's moot now, because we can't even make the road. But I think the point that Kathy's trying to make is, let's figure out a plan that works without cutting the trees down, and then whatever number of parking spaces that yields, that's what you got.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I will talk.
Okay, great, thanks.
Because John Foster, I was in his office today when he left for your hearing.
Okay.
He's enthusiastic about getting a solution.
Yeah, yeah.
So may I have a motion to adjourn AAMEE at the request of the applicant to the succeeding work session?
March meeting.
March meeting.
Thank you.
Good night.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. So that includes our agenda.
Should wait for the minutes until you have a fuller board.
Yeah.
So we cannot approve the minutes because we do not have a quorum of
Approve,
people who are
approvers are vacant.
vacant.
They're out of town.
So the next meeting will be a work session on February 29th at 5 PM. And the next regular meeting will be Monday, March 7th at 5:30 PM. That said, if there's nothing else to be done, may I have a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.